로리야 다 로라 아니 베나 진단겨와 진짜 시계베이나 아니 군이 가서 로직은 진단됐다 로직은 진주다 로현직 진주 밑에 니가 체 군이 어디 겨와 차네요나 그 직연은 직수 마댕지 그냥 그 준이 차려 뭐 시루 차려.
So when we are talking about states of mind, here I think I should inform the audience that the Tibetan word for mind really should be more translated as mind stroke heart. So when we are talking about the state of mind, one of the natural facts of our experience, subjective experience of thoughts and emotions is that if the thoughts and emotions, if there are two thoughts and emotions which directly oppose each other, one of the natural facts of, I suppose, what one could say a psychological law is that they cannot coexist at the same time.
No. Any lolia, Kasore, you lotigi, any chita shower that you turn a netting as you be enough. But I know lot is shower and she sugar in a turn to degree with Zane, Samashe, Luameche. Da lotigi chita sworn and she turned a name at Young chicken children never children need to deliver dollar chidlo, yeah, and shanding. Got the regular logic, Gada any turn to your maverick, logic. So didn't even do Zane, turn to your John lot so much good.
And then also from our own ordinary day-to-day life experience, we know that within our thoughts, there are types of thought which can be classified as valid. Then there are others which are invalid. For example, like if one's particular thought corresponds to the reality, if there is a correspondence in the state of affairs in the world and one's perception of that, one's understanding of that, then one can call that a valid thought or valid experience. On the other hand, we also experience thoughts and emotions which are completely contrary to the way things are. In some cases, it may be a form of exaggeration. In some cases, it is diametrically opposed to the way things really are. And these thoughts and emotions, from our own experience, we can understand them as invalid and ungrounded.
미안하지 남배충 나라리야 아니 산대 사지 자다 세면 레불이야 아니 바도 쳐봐다 바도 맞추면 레불세네 너도다 응원도 있네 응원도 분조 있네 나도 털도 그거는 nel이 있네 나도 nel이 장제 있네 나도 이 세면 레불이지.
So because of this distinction between valid and invalid forms of thoughts and emotion, in Buddhist text, and particularly in epistemological text, there is a discussion of valid cognitions or true cognitions and their results or fruits. The point being made here is that an endeavor, a successful endeavor that leads to the achievement of the objective really requires valid thoughts and emotions.
반하지 nel이 두야생에디 가다이니 동유도의 실부터 로고비리 참아이 비체 당건도 두야리야 당근식 반하지 가서 우리는 인주도 장주고 선수라는 대한도 참아 말해 마도볼로 처리하래 마도볼로 처리할 이니 반하지 장주고 선로 장야리야 랑진진기 개 신진진기 연대 디들 잡아쳤네 참에 내버터베 참을 때네 아니 누구인데 선리 온 거야 가지고 잘 보고 다가는 신 인주인의 뜻이지. 자, 드리메 있잖아요. 탑지 차트에서 제 몽구지 마도벌로 참인지 전주 섬사도 마도벌로 처리가 돼 있는 대영향 주지 나라냐? 될 잡된 참아양 요구하지 그 잘도 와. 봐. 자, 저번에 탈도 윤도 랑진진다 신진진이 견대 연대다 독신다 참에제 참아서 그러다 가다 남주의 제 아니 타지도 신진진의 연대통 아니 지랑진진의 견통에 타네 아니 너무인데 걸로 연구하러 거다 참아라는 연구도 다가는 지금 공도 주야 미주분 수준도 차잖아다 지지단으로 답변을 차샤비는 페이지도 제 참마다 샤 민두데 양 거의 영어데 양 간다지 기주 연대 통로 지니 미기주 님이 통로 지든데 타네 딱고 영대 아주 셔도 와. 그래서 민두전에 간다 세면 좀 차되게 하래. 다 퍼져데 코에 동에 코아서야 돼. 싸싸 도르스네 머리볼 투용이 되잖아요. 근데 양라준이 샤윤도 양라준이 통에 머리볼 샤샤용이 되잖아요. 간다이네 랜드를 뭐 머리볼 샤샤네. 그 세민 차용고요. 그 럭시 세민 차용고요. 아래 간다 저기 데코네를 뭐 머리볼 슬랍이 그 럭시 차용고요. 아래 댄징로 차용고요. 아래 사실 소인 되잖아요. 간다 지 동네디디 아니 세민으로 서도 세민서로 가다 치즈로 올올 때는 용가. 녀모를 치즈로 올올 때 겨고요. 맞다. 그래서 이 민두선이 치즈로 동네들이 치즈로 올올 때는 연구해 봤다. 대화들이 치즈 말라고 올올 때는 연구해 봤다. 세우도 봐.
So in Buddhist texts, the attainment of highest spiritual liberation, such as nirvana and enlightenment, are said to be fruits of valid thoughts and emotions. And for example, according to Buddhist teachings, the principal factor which forms part of the cause for attaining enlightenment or Buddhahood is said to be insight, true insights into the nature of reality. And so when we talk about true insights into the nature of reality, we are talking about, again, a valid way of knowing things and the nature of the world and so on. And also, if we look at many of the complementary factors such as compassion, altruism, and the altruistic aspiration to attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings, although these factors are themselves more of an emotion than a cognitive thoughts as such, but the process which leads to the realization of compassion, universal compassion, and the process which leads to the realization of bodhicitta, the altruistic aspiration to attain Buddhahood, again involve a process of applying one's intelligence, a process of comparing truths and false, a process of cultivating valid ways of seeing things and experiencing things. So we can say that the Buddhahood itself is a consequence of valid thoughts and emotions. Similarly, if you look at the contrast, we can see that unenlightened existence or samsara can be said to be the product of invalid ways of experiencing and seeing things. For example, like according to Buddhism, the fundamental root of our unenlightened existence is said to be ignorance or avidya, which the primary characteristic of which is a distorted way of perceiving the world. So we can say that at the root of our suffering and unenlightened existence lies a fundamental distortion. So here again you can say that invalid thoughts and emotions, invalid ways of seeing things and experiencing things and oneself are ultimately the source of our suffering and unenlightenment. So the point I'm making is that in the final analysis, again, we can see a kind of a correlation between valid forms of thought and emotion with happiness and spiritual freedom, invalid forms of thoughts and emotions with suffering and unenlightenment.
다 세면로 치지 말라고 로 깨베 타네 아니 야 지금 소다 치지 말라고 해다 가쇼래 쇼래다 그거지 로 참닝지 소도 돼야다 주야 아다 가다이네 친지로가 로 장샤부터 돼야 돼 매버서야 자 친지로가 로데 그파 세베 타네 다 녹신을 로 장야래도 로 장
So when Buddhism talks about training of the mind or mental discipline, the point being made here is to engage in a method or a process whereby valid forms of thoughts and emotion can be enhanced, developed, enhanced, and perfected, and where invalid forms of thoughts and emotions are counteracted and then undermined and eliminated eventually.
아니 로 정야리야 뭐라도 좀 그래서 일단 낭축 중국 나라리야 뉴모버 제디시동 세래 뉴모버 제디시동 사실은 최게 루당실이야 뉴모버 제디시동 대인년부 주부 제디시동 세네 이제는 어떤 되게 같은 것을나 세제 견데 남라만 거 쉬우 제대로지 고토고도가 사단디 방식 나디 년부 charles는도 디 독식이 탑들이 남라만 거 스타는 거야 디 그 시험을 같이 버려샤 배겨 탐자로 unrealistic.
So, one of the things, fundamental facts that we have to understand when approaching a technique like the Buddhist training of the mind is the appreciation of the complexity of the task that we are engaging in. For example, like in Buddhist scriptures, there is a mention of 84,000 types of negative emotions, destructive emotions and thoughts. And corresponding to these 84,000 types of destructive emotions and thoughts are 84,000 different approaches, antidotes. So it is important not to have the unrealistic expectation that somehow, somewhere we will find that magic key which will then help us get rid of everything.
So therefore, you see, we need more determination and more patience, isn't it? It is wrong with great expectation. Once you start practice of Dharma, then within a short period, even 1 week, or you become enlightenment. That's impossible. Unrealistic. So therefore, you see, we need one way, I think, determination. And then ludu rugo shusong yare. Oh, de kasore samlo tongdang da da tab de shiru channe tab de shiru nubal de ne. And assembly ngamra me de jida ko chugu